2025, when the main heavy theory exams for KCSE starts. For the last 2 weeks, we've been undertaking the examination across the country for both KPSEA and KJSEA, and also KCS practicals, which have gone smoothly without any instances. KPSEA was completed on Thursday, 30th of October, and KJSEA is being completed today as we start KCSE, which will run up to 21st of November this year. We anticipate that KPSEA and KJSEA's results will be released in December, and KCSE results will be released in January. Ladies and gentlemen, we have had the largest number this year of students undertaking these examinations, a total of over 3.4 million of them. 2.4 being KJSEA and KPSEA, and around 996,078 being KCSE. So KCSE begins today. It will run up to 21st, as I've indicated. And as a ministry through NEC, we put in place measures to ensure that there is a smooth administration of this cycle of exams. Our teams, field officers, center managers, supervisors, invigilators, and everybody else that we are working with, including teams from the national government through the Ministry of Interior, teams from ICT, teams from the Teacher Service Commission, are all working together using the multi-agency approach to ensure that all these examinations are undertaken in a commendable and clean manner. Because we are discouraging, as always, we are discouraging anyone engaging in any sort of malpractice or irregularity during this examination period. NEC, through the ministry and other players, has put a lot of security measures in this year's examinations. For instance, all the papers, all the scripts are individualized. They have the student's name, they have the student's photo, and they have the student's code, including their number. But what is most important is that we have two portions to the script. The first portion that has the details of the student. Once the student has put in their details, it is then perforated, it's plaqued and packed in a separate container, and the main script only has a code, so that as at the time the examiners will be marking, they will not know whose script they are marking, or from where that script comes from, or from which school, or from which region. What that anonymization does is to ensure that there is no bias during the marking, so that the results then become 100% credible as the proper result of that particular student. That's one feature that is so special this time, that ensures that no student is unfairly discriminated during the marking. Ladies and gentlemen, further, we have ensured that when you are going into the exam room or the center where the exams are being undertaken, the center manager has been advised on who is actually allowed to get into that space. So it's not everybody who would go into the school where examination is taking place. And because of this individualization, we have indicated that nobody should enter those spaces with a phone or any recording instrument. And if that were to happen, then it is easier to identify who the culprit is. What this does, it helps us going forward, not to punish the whole school or the whole class, but to punish individuals who are actually involved in malpractice. We've had a discussion with the Office of Prosecutor, ODPP, and we've agreed and they are ready in the event of anybody being found engaging in any sort of malpractice or irregularity, legal action will be taken against them, criminal charges will be preferred, and the process of them going through that court process and they found guilty, being jailed will then be part and parcel of it. And once that is done, and if it's a teacher or anybody who's working in the ministry, they will not be able to come back to the profession or to the ministry. So action will be serious action will be taken against those who will be found. On Saturday 1st in Marakwet East, there was a landslide rising out of heavy rains, an unfortunate incident where we lost lives. We keep condoling with the families and praying that those who are injured will have a quick recovery. In that incident, we had one student who was hurt. Uh, she was hurt on the left hand. She's at MTRH, and arrangements have been made for her paper to be taken to the hospital so that she can do her paper from that particular place. Also, we made logistical arrangements to ensure that exam papers reach the schools that have been affected, and we have put in place a number of choppers who are on standby in Eldoret and that are delivering those exam papers this morning, including other areas like Trans Nzoia, where it rained heavily yesterday. So that process is being done. Logistics have been put in place to ensure that at least each and every school gets the materials so that they can take the examinations without any challenges. Our intention, our plan, our strategy is to ensure that no child, no learner, this 996,078 misses doing the examinations during this time. So we put logistics in place as a government to ensure that each and every one of them at least does their exams. Here in Kwale, fortunately, the weather is good. We do not anticipate any logistical problems. We've just opened the container here and distributed all the materials to the schools. The security teams are here, ready to go to the schools and distribute. And we're going to go to Kwale High School here just to see the start of the first paper this morning. So, in a nutshell, we put measures, other measures like introducing the 250 smart padlocks to the containers across the country out of over the 600 containers that we have, is a plan that we have that eventually those are the smart padlocks that we'll be using so that we ensure that the materials are safely stored. So, in a nutshell, what we are saying is, as a government, we put in place measures to ensure that our students undertake the exams seamlessly. And I just want to assure Kenyans that the policy of 100% transition is in place, and I'm sure the candidates that whatever grade that you get, which is your grade, the government has facilities and infrastructure and institutions to absorb you. Those who will get higher grades will go to the universities, others will go to TVETs, others will go to vocational colleges, others will go to KMTCs, others will go to GTIs, others will go to KMTCs, etc. So we have facilities enough to take all our students, so that there's no reason why anybody would engage in malpractice because they want to get a grade which is not theirs. Get your grade, the government is ready, will be ready for you to ensure that you do something in your life depending on what you get. I've covered most of the things unless you have a question. The largest number of students this year is because we have the grade 9 cohort, which was not there last year. This grade 9 cohort, which had 1,030,000 students, I think, doing the exams, raised the number because we are now transitioning this grade 9 to grade 10 next year. And as we transition them to grade 10, you are aware that we are using pathways, which is the competence-based education system. We have the STEM pathway, we have the creative arts and sports pathway, and the social sciences pathway. So we are ensuring that our students continue doing as they learn what they are competent in, so that that competency contributes to their results eventually, as opposed to the 844 system in which you are only graded on what you got, your competencies notwithstanding. So these are the changes that we are doing to ensure that we skill our students, our learners going forward, so that we are producing graduates and learners for the market who the market requires, or who are skilled for the market based on those competencies. Mnajua vizuri kwamba the university crisis started in September, and the university crisis had three issues. One of the issues was on the CBA of 21-25, whose amount of 2.73 billion, which fell in the financial year 25-26 and was supposed to be paid in July, had not been paid, as at the time the notice of strike was issued in September. But 3 or 4 days into the issuing of that strike notice, that amount of 2.73 billion for the CBA of 2021-2025 was paid. So that issue of the CBA of 2021-2025 was spent, iliisha. The second issue they had was on a CBA of 2017-2021. The CBA of 2017-2021 was a CBA of 16.8 billion. 8.8 billion had been paid, but SRC then indicated that there was a balance of 624 when the unions indicated that there was a balance of 7.9 billion. SRC said that out of that 7.9 billion, 7.2 billion had been paid in the course of the years during the normal salary increments of the lecturers. So now we had a problem. We had SRC saying 624 billion and the union saying 7.9 billion. So we could not be able to progress until the payroll was re-audited again. But now this re-auditing was done between SRC, between the universities, and between the unions. When that exercise ended about 10 days ago or so, I'll get the actual date, they indicated that the actual balance is neither 624 million or 7.9. It is actually 7.7. 200 had already been paid. 200 was accepted by both sides as having been paid to the universities. So the balance was then 7.7. So the government then gave an offer to the unions to pay this 7.7 in three tranches, in three phases. Phase one, this November, phase two in July, and the phase three in July 2027, which the unions rejected. We went back to the drawing board, and on last week we gave them an offer of paying this 7.7 in two tranches. That is 50% this month of November, and 50% in July 2026. This they again rejected, insisting that they want the whole amount paid in lump sum. Now, this becomes a problem because this being a historical debt, a historical amount, this amount was not factored into the budget of the ministry for the year 2025-2026. So we had to be able to get it from the allocations. When you do those reallocations, you can only take so much from the budget, because if you take more, then other programs will suffer because they will not have enough resources to be to undertake their programs because of that budget cut. So we explained all this to them, that the difficulty is not that the government doesn't want to pay the 7.7, but the funds are not available to be paid because they were not budgeted for. So the idea was, we will do some reallocations and through supplementary one, pay 50% this month of November when supplementary one is being done, and then the balance will be factored into the budget of the ministry for financial year 2026-2027. And that's how government works, that's how planning works, that's how budgeting works. But they rejected this as well. But tomorrow, we are in parliament with them So we'll be meeting there with Parliament, officers from the Ministry, officers from Treasury, officers from the unions, and we'll brainstorm together and see whether we can come to an agreement tomorrow. In the meantime, the 12 universities that are completely not teaching, some of the senates have made a decision to close, including JKUAT, which closed yesterday, and others are meeting to assess the situation of the students because they've not been in class for almost 50 days to make a decision on whether to close or not. But as a government, we are doing something to resolve that challenge because it's a challenge that is life, but it's a challenge that is on our table through past non-decision making, and which is what we do not want to do now. For this particular government, we want to resolve that issue so that in future we don't have lecturers going on strike every other time. So that's really the challenge that we have, but we are working towards resolving. And I want to encourage the unions to consider the offer that the government has given, because previously, whatever offer that we had given, we have already made good. So we are not in arrears in any sense. And also, the students that are being punished now, and I thank them for being calm and remaining calm as they wait. The students that are being punished now were not there in 2017. They were not there in 2021. They are current in their payments to the lecturers. This is actually a historical debt or a pending bill, for lack of a better word, which can be resolved in other ways other than going on strike and denying the current students the studies when they have already done their part. So I'm just asking the unions to look into this issue and be open to discussion so that we can have it resolved. The other issue that they had of the negotiations of the CBA of 2025, 2029, the negotiations are ongoing. So you really cannot say you want to go on strike during the negotiations, because that then puts pressure on everybody to make maybe to accede to terms that may not be viable or that may not be fair. My appeal to them was that all of the strike, take a month or take 2 months, deal with the CBA of 2025, 2029 separately out of the strike as we resolve these issues. So the government has been faithful. The government has shown good faith in ensuring that the lecturers' welfare is taken care of and their issues are attended to without us running away from the challenge those, of those resources. So this is where we are with respect to the university strike lecturers. And also, ladies and gentlemen, there is a court case that was filed in September by the universities against the unions, and in the court said that particular strike is not protected. It was interdicted. So even as they refuse to go back to class, they are violating a valid court order. And when you violate a valid court order, you can be subjected to contempt proceedings. So, but we have not done that because we have been negotiating and saying, can we resolve this matter in an amicable way? And that's what I'm asking them to do.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.